president's health care law from the president's own Justice Department. Welcome to the Kelly File, everyone. I'm Megyn Kelly. Just last week, as President Obama was claiming that he was sincere but mistaken in his repeated promises that if you liked your health care plan, you could keep it under Obamacare, top attorneys in his Justice Department were telling a federal court something very different. First, here's the president last week.
There is no doubt that the way I put that forward unequivocally ended up not being accurate. It was not because of my intention not to deliver on that commitment and that promise. We put a grandfather clause into the law, but it was insufficient.
Got that? He intended to deliver on his promise with that grandfather clause, but the clause proved insufficient. Moreover, he stressed that the only people affected by that broken promise were those on the small 5% of the public individual market, not those on the much bigger employer-sponsored or group health care plans. As it turns out, as the president was offering those excuses to you, his administration was arguing something very different to a federal court, saying, and I quote, we're going to put the graphic on the screen in a moment, the control was telling me it has a misspelling, so we're going to get it fixed and put it up. But this is what it says. Even under the grandfathering provision, it is projected that more group health plans will transition to the requirements under the regulations as time goes on. Now, what does that mean? Just look at it for a second. Even under the grandfathering provision, the one that's supposed to save all of you, it is projected that a majority of group health plans, hello, that's employer-based health plan. That's not individual market. A majority of employer-based, essentially, health plans will have lost their grandfather status by the end of 2013. Would you look at the date on that? The date of this memo that the DOJ was arguing this in federal court was October 17th, 2013. This brief was pending and alive, and it still is, as the president was telling you he meant to take care of everyone in the individual market with the grandfathering provision, and by the way, it's only the individual market, and it's not employer-based health care. Got it? The president says X, and the DOJ says not X. So not only now do we have an admission that the president knew this was going to happen, but as for his claims last week and over the past couple of weeks that we're just talking about this puny portion of the market, the individual market, just 5%. Those are the only ones going to lose their health plans. Well, it's not that. You hear it there in the DOJ's brief. Employer-based coverage. Employer-based coverage is also at issue. Remember, President Obama has said over and over again, since this whole thing broke and we saw all these policies getting canceled, he has come out repeatedly to try to urge a belief that this whole debacle only affects a small percentage of the population.
For the vast majority of people who have health insurance that works, you can keep it. For the fewer than 5% of Americans who buy insurance on your own, you will be getting a better deal. We're talking about 5% of the population who are in what's called the individual market. They're out there buying health insurance on their own. You have an individual market that accounts for about 5% of the population, and our working assumption was, my working assumption was, that the majority of those folks would find better policies at lower costs or the same costs.
Andrew McCarthy is a contributing editor at National Review and a former federal prosecutor, and he posted a link to this brief in his column, and it's all here, black and white, what his DOJ was doing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Look, this is part of the fraud. This has been fraudulent from the beginning. This provision itself, the grandfather provision, is just a dog and pony show from the beginning. It's to say that they had a grandfather provision. It was drafted about as narrowly as you can draft it. In fact, the Republicans actually in 2010 tried to turn it into a meaningful safe harbor.